Currently have for Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Donald Trump starts off with 235 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 226. Now, if you're familiar with the electoral map and perhaps watched similar videos of these in 2020, it doesn't come as much as a surprise. A lot of the familiar swing states are swing states once again. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. I am putting North Carolina as lean Trump for now to begin with, as well as Ohio and Florida as likely Trump. And I also have a few other states for lean Biden: Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Nebraska's 2nd District. But the Trump campaign doesn't agree with this map, and they have an idea that they want to target two states, Minnesota and Virginia. They think they can put these states in play and have a good shot or a decent shot at winning them. As I mentioned, I have them as both likely Democrat, but the Trump campaign plans to open up a lot of field offices in Virginia and Minnesota, and they believe that by doing so will give them a shot at winning these states, which they view through internal polling as being competitive. And it's interesting to hear this because both Virginia and Minnesota have been strong Democratic states for most of the 2000s. Minnesota has gone for a Democrat in every single election since 1972. Whereas Virginia, the last time it voted Republican at the presidential level was for George Bush in 2004. So it has certainly been a long time for either of these states to go for a Republican. However, Trump believes that he may have a shot in Virginia and Minnesota. And Trump is actually going to do a campaign visit in Virginia immediately following his first presidential debate. So, just that's kind of the basis of it, that the Trump campaign is going to be putting some resources into Minnesota and Virginia, and they think they have a shot at winning these states. So the first thing I'm going to do quickly is go over the state of Virginia. Virginia and its 13 electoral votes is, I think if either one of these states is going for Trump on election night, Trump is probably doing very, very well and overperforming. I don't see either of these states as realistically going for Trump, but he was able to flip Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, three states that at the presidential level had not gone for Republicans since the 1990s. So I guess, or the 80s, excuse me. So I guess it's technically possible, but not something I would bet a lot of cachet into. I would say Virginia and Minnesota both stay blue, but nevertheless, the Trump campaign believes they can contest them both. And why? Well, if we go to 2020, Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump by 10 points in the state of Virginia, the same state that voted for George Bush in 2004. Of course, that was a long time ago now, but still, a historically very Republican state that has trended Democrat in every election since 2004, and Trump lost it by 10. What hope can he possibly see in trying to win this state in 2024? Well, 2021, Republican challenger Glenn Youngkin was running for the open governor's race against Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat, who he was not the incumbent because in Virginia, incumbents are not allowed to run for re-election for governor due to their state's constitution. However, once another governor has served a term, that former governor can run again. So they can serve another 4-year term. They just can't do it consecutively. Terry McAuliffe was the governor before, the Democratic governor before Glenn Youngkin, Ralph Northam. Before him was Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe. McAuliffe decides to run for governor again, gets the Democratic nomination, and he faces Republican businessman at the time, Glenn Youngkin. And this race was very, very close. If you go through the history of my channel, I'm sure I did a video on this, but this race was very, very close, and it was really coming down to the wire. Like, the polls had McAuliffe winning for most of the election until about the last week, where Youngkin started to slowly tick ahead by a point or two, and that's exactly what happened. Youngkin ended up winning by about a little under 2 points. And this gave Republicans a lot of hope in Virginia and also around the country. Because not only did Youngkin win, but the Attorney General went Republican, Lieutenant Governor went Republican. I believe Republicans had control of the State House and Senate in Virginia. So it was a big, big night for Republicans in Virginia. And then that, of course, led many to believe that Republicans would go on to have a great 2022, and this was a sign of things to come. And that did not go quite so well. A lot of factors could have gone into that. I've gone over that multiple times in other videos, so I won't delve too much into it. But nonetheless, Virginia for Glenn Youngkin was a very good sign for Republicans and the Republican Party in Virginia that maybe the state isn't too far gone for the Republicans. Maybe they still can win the state. Maybe they can translate this into a presidential election and see what they can do. It's also important to note, I don't know if I mentioned this, that Virginia's governor elections, along with New Jersey's, are always the year following the presidential election. So the next Virginia governor's election will be in 2025. Actually, there's already been some candidates declaring for it, which I'm sure I'll do a future video on that at some point as well. But Virginia's elections for governor are in 2025. So Youngkin won this one in 2021. So how did he do it? How did he win by 2 points where Trump lost by 10? Well, first of all, I'm going to go to the size of victory chart here because I think this sums it up very well. Virginia, you see a lot of red throughout the western part of the state. The only problem with that is these counties are very tiny. A few thousand votes, few thousand votes, few thousand votes. The problem is the bigger the bubble, the bigger the population is. And the northern DC suburbs up here, I'll go back to this county as well. Fairfax County, Loudoun County, Prince William County, Arlington County. These outside of DC are where a big percentage of the population is. I believe once upon a time it was something like 25 or 30% of the state lived up here. I believe or something like that was what the number was. I'm not totally sure what the number is now, but population in that region has only gone up, not down. So I can't imagine it's smaller than what it was. The point being, Trump probably either split even with Biden throughout Western Virginia, but definitely got killed up here in Northern Virginia, in Loudoun County, Fairfax County, Prince William, Arlington. And historically, for a Republican to win Virginia, how Bush won Virginia, he actually won Loudoun County and Prince William County and did a lot better than Trump did in Fairfax County. Fairfax and Arlington will always go Democrat, but Republicans were able to win Loudoun and win Prince William when Bush and the Republicans were doing stronger in Virginia. Due to the population growth of the area, that has definitely changed, and that is not the way Virginia Republicans can still win. But nonetheless, that was how it was done. Another thing to point out for Trump did lose down here in Virginia Beach City. These are two areas where if Trump or any Republican is winning Virginia, they pretty much have to be winning these counties. If they're not winning these counties, I think it's kind of a sign that they're not going to win. And no disrespect to President Trump, but he lost by 10 points. I mean, he really wasn't in too much contention in the state. I don't think his campaign put much of an effort in winning Virginia last time either, which is why him announcing he wants to put more time in Virginia surprised me for 2024. Trump lost Virginia Beach by, 52, 46, what's that, 6 points? So he lost by 6 points, lost his county by about the same, by about 6 points. So that's not good. Biden did very well in the suburban areas and very well in the DC suburbs. And then, of course, Trump did very well in the rural counties, but again, they're tiny. What did Glenn Youngkin do? Well, if you may have noticed immediately, Glenn Youngkin won these counties, Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. He won them both. And not just by a little bit, by a lot. The same margin that Biden beat Trump in here, Youngkin did that plus 2%. Youngkin wins here by 8. Youngkin flips what Biden got over Trump in Chesapeake City in this county. So Youngkin very much did the more traditional Republican route at winning Virginia. Like every Republican and like Trump, he did very well in Western Virginia, winning all the smaller counties and all the thousands of votes. But he also did what he had to do with winning the suburbs and winning Virginia Beach. Very, very crucial, very important. He won the surrounding suburbs of Norfolk. Norfolk will always go for the Democrat, but the surrounding suburbs of Chesapeake City and Virginia Beach, Youngkin won there. Now, at this point, if the Republicans winning down here, it's going to be a close election in Virginia, and then the margins matter. The margins of each county matter. So what do I mean by that? Loudoun County. Terry McAuliffe got 55% of the vote to Glenn Youngkin's 44%. He lost his county. Youngkin lost his county. He lost it by 11 points, which you would think is not good, and in 2004 would have been terrible and detrimental for the presidential candidate for the Republican. He lost by 11. What did Trump lose it by? A lot more than 11. So, and it's not just this one. Prince William, Trump lost at 62-35. Youngkin, 57-42. Fairfax, 65-34.5. 70-28. It's not an accident that Glenn Youngkin won when you look at the margins of the Democratic counties. Glenn Youngkin outperformed President Trump in pretty much almost every single Democratic county there was. Now, there could be some reasons for this. It could be it was an off-year election, and traditionally the off party that's not in the White House does very well in the governor's election in Virginia. And this election was no exception. But still, this is a state that was trending Democratic for the last 15 years. Youngkin was able to win and pull off an upset. Let me check this county. 62-37. Now we check for Trump. 66-32. So, a little bit better. Youngkin pretty much outperformed Trump everywhere. And he won in Virginia Beach. He did better in the northern suburbs. Youngkin provided the blueprint for how a Republican can win Virginia. The question is, will Trump and Biden be able to replicate this result in 2024? My bet is no. Because, for one, look at the raw numbers. 2.4 million to 1.9. Presidential year turnout, now off year election, 1.6 to 1.6. So the turnout, which was much lower, presidential election years always have higher turnout. I don't think the turnout will be lower or will be this number. It's going to be a lot closer to this number. Which, I mean, if enough independents and moderate voters are upset with Biden, that can bode well for Trump. Trump may be able to make Virginia close, and if Virginia's close, maybe some of the other swing states he needs to win are going Republican. So that could be a good sign. I can't imagine Virginia going Republican in 2024 for Trump. I just can't. If he's winning here, he's winning Minnesota. He's probably winning New Hampshire. Trump is putting on an absolute masterclass of how to win as a Republican if he's winning Virginia. I don't think this map will translate to the presidential map. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it. So that was Virginia, and it's definitely a very interesting case study for Trump to see if he can make this map a reality. If he can, it would be an absolute upset, an absolute impressive showing by the Trump campaign. But again, I don't personally see it coming. So, I'm just going to go back to the map really quick. That was Virginia. Now on to Minnesota. This one shocked me a little bit, but then again, when I started looking at it, really didn't. Because Minnesota in 2020, Biden won 52.6 to 45.4. About 300,000 votes or so, maybe a little under. Biden was able to win by a pretty decent margin, by 7 points. Smaller than Virginia, but Minnesota is a state Republicans have targeted for a pretty long time and always seem to want to win, but Democrats always end up winning by 5 to 7 points in the state, it seems. And I'm not saying Minnesota can't be won by a Republican, because it certainly can be, but Minneapolis and its surrounding counties, there's just too much of a share of the vote. Duluth, good numbers, but not as big as Minneapolis. Rochester, same thing. Democratic, but not as bad for the Republicans. Smaller counties, swing counties, suburban counties. Minneapolis, I think the Democratic vote there is just too overpowering for a Republican to make up. So, I don't really see a path in which Trump can win Minnesota, but why is he looking at it? I think a small part of it is go back to 2016 versus Hillary Clinton. Trump only lost it by about 2 points. That's it, 2 points. He won these counties out here. Where are they? Nicollet County and Blue Earth County. Both of these went for Trump in 2016. Biden won them in 2020. So they have at least a history of voting for Trump. Rochester went blue, but by much smaller numbers. So Trump was able to make up the margins there. And the surrounding suburban counties of Minneapolis, Dakota was closer. Washington was closer. Ramsey was not. And Minneapolis was not. These were the core Democratic votes were. But, so why is Trump focusing on Minnesota? Because Hillary Clinton only got 46% of the vote and won. A lot of third-party vote. 2020, 52.6, 45.4. Not a lot of third-party vote. About 3% total of the third-party vote. If Joe Biden is so unpopular that there's a lot of third-party vote happening, Minnesota could actually be put in play. Because if Trump gets 45.4% of the vote again in Minnesota, that would actually be an improvement of what he got in 2016. And Hillary got 46.4. Trump would be getting 45.4. Trump would lose in this scenario by 1 point. Assuming he doesn't improve, which it is certainly possible. But is Biden as weak as Clinton was in terms of getting voter turnout and getting turnout in Minnesota? 2020 proved Biden was stronger than Hillary Clinton in that regard. I'm not sure what 2024 is going to look like. There's a lot of time to the election. Minnesota's polling has not been as watched and I would say frequent as some of the other states because it's not really thought of as a swing state too much. But the governor of Minnesota, the Democratic governor, disagrees. Governor Tim Walz says he believes a matchup of Biden and Trump will be close. Though, of course, he affirmed that he believes President Biden will win. He says it will be close. And it will be a contentious election. So, Trump putting resources into Minnesota, I think could be a situation of, well, you know what? Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, we pretty much can't win if we don't win one of these three. Why not give us another avenue and try to win Minnesota? Same electoral vote numbers, Wisconsin, right next door. Similar demographic voting wise, I would say to probably more Michigan than Wisconsin, but not too dissimilar from the other three states. Why not try and put another Rust Belt state in play? And Virginia is different than Minnesota for sure. Virginia is more of a traditional southern state that used to be a Republican state that maybe, you know what, it's gone red before. It just went red for Glenn Youngkin. Maybe Trump can just do a few rallies and see if the polling changes in his direction. Maybe. If I was going to bet on which one of these states I think is more likely to go Republican, I would actually say Minnesota. And I don't think Minnesota goes Republican. I still have them both as likely Democrat for a reason. I don't see either one of these states going for Trump. But I would absolutely say Minnesota is more favored than Virginia. Just because, I mean, with Trump on the ballot, the track record shows Minnesota's been closer for Trump. It was 2 points in 2016 and 7 points in 2020. Virginia was 10 points for Biden in 2020, and I believe it was around 7 or 8 points in 2016. Trump has not performed well in Virginia at the presidential level. Minnesota, I mean, it could be because Hillary Clinton only got a plurality of the vote, and there was a lot of third-party vote. Trump didn't do too bad in Minnesota. He got 44 and 45% of the vote both times. Not enough to win, but depending on how strong the Democrat is, enough to be competitive. So, this move by the Trump campaign is certainly perplexing. It's unexpected. And I just urge them to, as a political observer, to be a little bit cautious. Because if you're pulling resources into Minnesota and Virginia, I mean, that's fine, of course, but right here, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, these are the three targets for Trump to try and win the election if he wants to become president again. These three states all voted for him in 2016. Minnesota did not. Virginia did not. These would have the best shot of him becoming president again if he were to win these states. If Biden were to win all three, I mean, Biden gets 270 right there. He's the president of the United States again. Unless Trump is able to pick off New Hampshire, or maybe that's why Trump's going after Minnesota or Virginia, to try and find a new way to get to 270, blocking Biden's path in the so-called blue wall of the states that will be likely or solid for Biden, that most likely will go for him. If Biden can win these three states, he's pretty much the president of the United States again. So maybe Trump's looking at Minnesota and Virginia for those reasons. But the election's ways away, and this move, I think, is certainly questionable, but in theory, I understand why the Trump campaign is looking at it. They're trying to explore their possibilities and paths to victory. I think they know in the back of their mind Minnesota won't go red, Virginia won't go red, but why not give it a shot? I mean, this is likely the last campaign President Trump is running. This is probably one of the more winnable elections they have in the 2000s for them. Say 2008, 2012, and 2020, 2024. This is probably one of the better environments for them. President Biden's approval ratings have been not too good at all. So Republicans got to be feeling very optimistic, and I think the Trump campaign knows that, and they're trying to go after Minnesota and Virginia. At very least, maybe by pouring resources there will make Democrats have to go on defense in Minnesota and Virginia, and that may open up some opportunities for Trump to do more rallies in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure, but it is definitely interesting and something to monitor. I don't think the states will go red, but nonetheless, something interesting to keep an eye on. That'll do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Why don't you leave me a comment below telling me what you think of this video and what you think of the Trump campaign putting some resources into Minnesota and Virginia. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you have not yet done so, if you want more videos like these. Hope to see you in a future video.